the system of court makes it seem very unhuman and very cold and calculated and a thought experiment, and there's rules and evidence and the judge and the scary black robe. But at its core, what our plaintiff attorneys are fighting for are human values. You're listening to Sari Swear on the Sari Swears podcast. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Sari Swears. Coach K is back in the podcast studio, and we're going to be talking about the one conversation you must have with jurors if you want big verdicts or big damages at trial. Well, welcome, Coach K.
Thank you for welcoming. I feel very welcome.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad. And you have your Clash shirt on.
Yep. Try to change out the shirts and keep it interesting.
Yeah. So the reason why you're here is because we're talking about a very specific type of conversation, one that you and I learned in our coaching journey, and that we have now been teaching our clients to do. And we're going to talk today about what that is, how to do it, and why it's so important. So what we're talking about is what's called a resonant conversation, and resonance coming from the musical term, right? So when something musical is resonant, it's vibrating, it's landing, and that's the way we want to think about it in terms of this conversation. It's a conversation that really lands with somebody. It's a meaningful conversation, and it doesn't have to be necessarily positive, but it's something that's meaningful. So describe a little bit for us what that looks like in terms of a resonant conversation.
Well, yeah. I mean, generally what it looks like is someone's you hone in on something where someone's talking about that they sound like they're interested, or their voice gets a little bit lighter. They sound like they're excited about something, or they like it. And you start asking questions around that, but open-ended question, not closed-ended questions, like what and how questions to get them to really resonate and expand on that topic.
And what do our clients usually do instead of having resonant conversations in voir dire?
Close-ended questions.
Close-ended questions and information gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so give us an example of the difference between a resonant question versus information gathering.
Resonant question is, what's that like? What's important about that?
How important is that to you?
How important is that? Those very opening questions that get people to really expand on what they were saying, whereas closed-ended is just yes and no. It's very quick. It's abrupt. One-word answer.
Information gathering? What kinds of questions would we hear there?
Information gathering would be like, okay, what's your name? Where are you from? How many pairs of shoes do you have?
God, I couldn't even begin to answer that.
That's why I looked at your shoes and I thought that I asked that question because
so that could be resonant.
Gut check. How many pairs of shoes do you have? What's the number?
50?
Oh my God.
Plus, probably.
I didn't know
but see, that could be resonant because I really love my shoes.
That's true.
But yeah, where were you born? Those kinds of, where do you live? What year did you start practicing law? Those are all information gathering
Even
questions.
like what sport do you play, but then not asking about the sport, just finding out that information.
Yes. Yeah. So we're going to model both the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it in just a minute. But before we get there, why is it so important that attorneys have resonant conversations versus information gathering questions with their people, with their jurors?
Well, I mean, you get the people talking and you get the people talking about themselves, and people love to talk about themselves.
Yes.
And they get invested. When they're talking about themselves and you're interested, they're invested in whatever's going on because they want to know what's next.
Yes, I think the big thing here too is we talk a lot about how resonant conversations immediately connect with non-economic damages because those are the hard damages to have. And so when you have these conversations with jurors about what they value, that's the way we have the resonant conversation. And they start talking about their family or their hobbies or their work. They start to get it. It starts to sink in about how important these things really are versus when we have these surface level conversations and then later we're talking about whether an opening or closing about the non-economic harms, it becomes a thought exercise. It's not real.
No. Yeah. I mean, when you get people in touch with their emotion, I've been reading this book called Your Survival Instinct is Killing You. And it's all about the amygdala and the oldest part of the brain, but then also the prefrontal cortex. But when you get people talking about emotional things and they get invested emotionally, it makes it easier for them to make more abstract decisions.
Really?
Yep.
Does it say why?
It's a lot of it has to do with the fact that you get that investment piece. You get invested, and then once you've decided, you make that decision and you say it out in front of everyone else. It's pretty set in stone.
Yes.
So they say it, and even if I mean, even if they say it and that maybe they change their mind a little bit later, they've said it in front of a group. It's very hard for them to change.
Yes,
turn that around.
for sure, which is Cialdini's influence. And I think also when we're talking about investment from our jurors, I mean, there's a reason why we can't do the golden rule, right? Because it's so powerful to be like, well, what if this was you, right? But when we have our jurors talking about things that they value, and then we hear later in trial about the things that the plaintiff lost, there's an immediate connection there without us having to make it. And yet we are not actually having these conversations. Why? Why do you think our attorneys are not having resonant conversations? I think there's a few reasons, but what would you say?
Fear.
Fear. Say
Scared
more.
of being vulnerable, scared of being objected to, scared of saying the wrong thing, scared of the juror's going to think they're creepy as fuck. Fill in the blank.
And are they? Is a resonant conversation creepy?
No, I mean, I guess it can be if you ask some creepy questions, but I don't, and then that wouldn't be resonant, I don't think. Maybe.
What do you like to do with your body?
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Oh, hopefully that person is listening to this episode.
Yeah. That's an inside joke. Sorry. But I think also they don't know how. Honestly, I don't think they know how. I don't think that, I think all of us in life have resonant conversations. But until like you and I went to coaching, we didn't know how to I wouldn't say force that to happen, but allow it to happen with the right things to do. So I think part of it is fear for sure, because I think a big piece of the fear piece is that they are trained, if they are trained at all, in exclusionary voir dire. So there's really no need for resonant conversation in exclusionary voir dire.
Nope.
Right? So all you're doing in exclusionary voir dire is going in and going, who are the people that are not for me?
Yeah, these are my enemies. Let's get them off, attack them.
Let's make sure that we're asking questions that will talk them off the jury so that I don't have to use my peremptories on them. So I think it's a very different approach to jury selection when we say, hey, you need to be having resonant conversations with your jury, especially if you want to get the bigger damages. Because how would you say resonant conversations actually lead to bigger damage awards? Or I don't like the word awards. Jury returning a bigger damage.
I think anytime you get someone invested in their heart space, something that really, really matters to them, even if it is a conversation that's related to them at the beginning in jury selection, but you get them in that space and you can keep connecting that throughout trial.
Yes.
That's that investment. That's what make the damages go up, and especially if you're speaking directly to them, like the trial dialogue and things of that nature where you're an opening statement and you're saying the words they said back to them. All these things just, get them more and more invested.
Yes, because if we go back to the idea that jurors are hostages and they don't want to be there and they don't have any investment in this, they're like, what do I have to do and how do I do it and so I can get out of here? What we're really wanting from our jurors is to invest in the process. And the best time to invest in the process is in voir dire. Why? Because they can talk about themselves and what they value and their families and all of the things that are, we say it so often, and I think our plaintiff attorneys forget this, is that what they're doing is a very human endeavor. And the system of court makes it seem very unhuman and very cold and calculated and a thought experiment, and there's rules and evidence and the judge and the scary black robe. But at its core, what our plaintiff attorneys are fighting for are human values, things that we all care about. And that's what was taken in every single case. Now, the distasteful part about it is that we now have to put a money piece to it. We have to attach that money piece, and that's a huge obstacle that they have to overcome. But one way that they can overcome that or begin to overcome that is have these resonant conversations. So let's kind of model, we've never done this before, and I thought this might be a fun exercise for our listeners, an information or kind of flat conversation, information gathering, and then we'll do a resonant one, and we're not going to do it with law at first. We'll do it with law in just a minute, where I'll be the lawyer and you'll be the juror. But right now, I'm going to be a client of yours, and you're going to be the coach. And let's do it the wrong way, so it's non-resonant. Okay. All right.
Hey, Sari, how you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay, you're okay. All right. Yeah. What have you been doing today?
I was working before we came to this. I was working on putting together all of the furniture and tech purchases and things that you've been helping me with for our accountant, because we bought so much last year, and I'm really hoping that's going to help us with taxes, but it's grueling.
Oh boy, so it's a big number, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. you going to tell me what that number is? You might
I don't
ask.
know what it is yet. I'm still
Okay,
working
all
on
right.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like it's going to take you a lot of time today.
It is going to take me a lot of time.
Okay. When do you think you're going to finish it?
Gosh, I don't know. It's several more hours
Several more hours?
for sure.
Okay. Yeah, man. That sounds like it could be several more hours, but could it go into tomorrow too?
Well, we're leaving tomorrow, so I hope not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you think you're going to have to do to make sure that you can get it done in time?
I don't know. I'm going to have to look at my schedule. Oh my God, I'm boring myself, if not our listeners, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of, well, what are you doing? How are you doing it? How long is it going to take you?
Then problem solving.
Problem solving, is just, that's how we don't want to have those conversations. So we're going to take the same topic, but now Kevin's going to move it to a more resonant conversation, meaning something that lands with me, something that's meaningful. Because I just came out of that. I don't want to talk about that. And even if I did want to talk about it, it's still not meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Sari, how are you today?
I'm okay.
Okay. Sounds like your voice didn't sound like you're that okay. What
I
does
mean,
that
I
mean?
am. I'm tired because I have this big project where I'm putting all these numbers together and orders from last year, all the stuff that we bought for the H2HQ to get over to the accountant. So it's just a lot, and we're leaving tomorrow. So I want to get it done before then.
Oh, boy. Leaving tomorrow. Where are you going tomorrow?
We're going to the beach.
Yeah, going to the beach. That sounds a lot different than what you've been doing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very different. I mean, I don't love these financial. I want to get away from this totally of ever having to do this again.
What would it be like if you could get away from it just right now?
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm training someone to do this for me, but just this morning we found out that Quicken doesn't work except for on one computer, and so there's a whole other problem. But once we actually figure this out, I'm hoping to step back and continue to step back and work a 3-day week eventually.
What would that be like if you worked a 3-day week?
It's a dream of mine. It would be amazing. I would just come in and work with clients, my masterminds, and teach in our command the courtrooms. I mean, that's the dream. That's all I'm doing and not building a business.
This sounds like very important work to you.
It is. I feel like I've been kind of doing that, of course, but then also trying to run a business at the same time. And it's just getting to the point where we're growing so much that I can't do both.
Yeah. So what if you didn't have to run the business? You could just do this important work.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. What would it look like? What would your days look like doing this kind of work? That's it.
I mean, just creative, being in a creative space, being able to put all of my effort into the work that I bring on my podcast, to my clients, all of it. Yeah.
Wow. You bring this to your clients. How important are your clients to you?
I love my clients. I particularly love my masterminds, but I love all my clients. I love all my fans, all the people who listen to the podcast. Wow. All right. So notice how that's a different conversation. It's getting me thinking about the things that are meaningful. Now, let's show you how this plays out in trial. So in trial, what I hear happen is something like this. So you're a manager. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
How many people do you manage?
Just one person.
Just one person. Okay. And what's your management style?
I'm kind of like alongside manager. I like to be the person that, shows and does, but then also can mentor and help that person along in that way.
And how long have you been managing?
Oh, wow. Maybe about 15 years, something like that.
Right. Yeah. So not very interesting conversation. No. If you're a longtime listener, you've probably heard me say practice makes progress. And what better way to practice than with a fellow group of trial attorneys in person and with me? Our 2-day Command the Courtroom Masterclass sessions put the H2H method into action, and I'm there every step of the way with live coaching and feedback and finish mama fierceness. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what PI attorney Sean had to say about our 2-day masterclass.
My biggest takeaway is that I now have a new approach as to how I'm going to enter the courtroom. It's a new energy, a new spirit, and it really gets me excited because that's actually the more fun part of what we do. And I'm looking forward to taking advantage of everything that I learned here.
Now, seats are limited. These are small group, high-impact courtroom sessions, not an auditorium full of bored attorneys and dull lectures. If you want to change the way you go to trial and turn your practice into progress, visit sariswears.com/masterclass to register for a 2026 class today. That's sariswears.com/masterclass. Okay, so now we're going to move to what we teach our clients, which is the price versus value conversation. And this is how we differentiate for our jurors, and they love this because it makes so much sense to them, the difference between economic damages and non-economic damages. Economic damages come with a price tag, right? There's bills, receipts, invoices. They're going to get all that, and they can determine how much there was like a cost of things here in this case. But non-economic damages don't come with a price tag, but that doesn't mean they don't have value. Now, before we tell jurors that their job is to put a price tag on the things that have value, we're going to ask them, or we tell them that they're going to do that, but not how yet. We're going to ask them the things that they value in their world. So here's what a resonant conversation might look like. So you raised your hand, sir, that you have things in your life that you value that don't come with a price tag. What's one of the things?
My daughter.
Your daughter. How old is your daughter?
She's 10. She's going to be 11 next month.
Oh, my goodness. So what do you love about your daughter?
Oh, my God. What do I not love about my daughter? She's incredible. She's artistic and funny and playful and just, you can't be in a bad mood around my daughter.
Why not? Why can't you be in a bad mood around your daughter?
Because even when she's in a bad mood, it ends up being funny or something. But she is just this absolute light. She's just this bright light of fun and joy.
Yeah, I hear a lot of fun coming from that. What are some of the fun things you guys do together?
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of it's just goofing around, you
Yeah.
know. My daughter's the one that likes to just pose something silly, and then we just get in this huge conversation about something that's completely fictitious, doesn't make any sense, but we can talk for hours about it. She'd make a great coach right now.
Yeah. She asks good questions.
She has great questions.
Yeah.
She really does.
Yeah. And what is it like having those deep conversations with her?
Oh, it's the best. I can't think of anything that's better. It's just, if I have a day where maybe it was kind of tough and I come home and start talking to her, instantly changes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. She sounds like a bright light in your life.
she really is.
Notice the difference in that conversation. And even those of you who are attempting to have these resonant conversations will do something like this, which doesn't get us to where we want. So you said, sir, you have something that you value. What's something that you value that doesn't come with a price tag?
My daughter.
Thank you. And you over here, that's it, right? It's like you just get, that's still information gathering. Even though we're asking about what somebody values, it's still information gathering.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about these resonant conversations, let's teach our attorneys how to actually do it. So how do you start a resonant conversation, would you say? And I like to think of this as two halves, kind of what you're doing to start it and then what you're doing while they're talking. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the first part. Like, how do you start a resonant conversation?
You started with what questions?
What or how? Yes.
You can get to how, but how can be a bit like in the doing space so that you get to that. Mm-hmm. But I like to always start with what, because it's an open-ended, wide, expansive question.
Yes.
And then once you start getting to figuring out what to do next, that's when you get ask more how questions. So
in this case, we've given you your question, which is, what is something you value without a price tag, right? And that really gets people thinking. Now, when they normally will give you one-word answers. That's what we see all the time. So they'll say something like, my daughter or my family. So what's the next step?
Once you've asked,
and they give you, once they give you that one-word answer.
Yeah. Well, first off, when whatever they're saying, generally, if you're asking them a question like, what do you value? The thing that they say, you're going to hear something in their voice that energetically, that's different than just some kind of information gathering thing. So even when I said, well, my daughter, I didn't say my daughter. Maybe they would,
Right.
But generally speaking, if it's something that they value, you'll hear that more open sound and you follow that. You go, oh. And you match it. I mean, you can match that energy, and then they feel seen.
And then you can also follow up with another what question,
Another
right?
what question.
What do you value about your daughter?
Yeah, what do you value about? What's that like?
What's that like being
Oh,
with her?
man.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes. So,
and stuff adding in, oh man, wow, like be emotive.
well, that's the facial tracking that we
Yeah.
talk about, right? So we have two types of tracking that we talk about. One is you're tracking the conversation. And so I think this is another place where a lot of our attorneys go wrong is they'll say, what do you value about your daughter, which is the dig in piece, right? So that's that second piece. It's like once they give you this one word answer, you have to dig in a little bit. What do you value about your daughter? What do you love about your daughter? And so as they are giving that answer, if they're like, well, she's just, the love of my life and I just love everything when I come home, she just makes my whole day brighter. And you just have this face that's
Stone face.
not tracking it at all. It's weird.
It is weird.
Or if they're talking about something sad and you don't have a sad face, it's weird.
If you're like at this happy face while they're talking about something sad.
So part of the resonant conversation is you're participating in it. And so your face and your gestures should match what you're hearing. Like, oh, or oh my goodness, yeah, that's terrible. Right? So there's the facial tracking, but there's also the tracking of the conversation. Right? So I was listening to what you were saying, and instead of trying to come up with a different question, I was either repeating, well, it sounds like she's such a bright light. How is she a bright light? How does she show up in that way, right? So I'm taking what you're saying and I'm continuing the conversation because I think what a lot of times attorneys will do is they're like, I just got to come up with another great question. And it may be a great question, but it's not where the person was at.
It'll throw them off. They may be in resonance, and then you ask a question that's out in left field, and they're like, I lost my train of thought. That's not really what we were talking about, but okay.
It kind of stops them, and they're like, this. It takes them kind of out of resonance. And so the first half of this conversation is to start with a what question. Once they give you that one-word answer, dig in with another one. What do you value about your family? And they might say, well, they're very supportive. Ooh, tell me about a time they supported you, right? You're tracking it, which is the third thing, right? So ask that what question, dig in, and then track them as they're speaking. How about on the other side? As they're talking, what should you be doing?
Well, you should be listening to them.
Yes, but we have 3 levels of listening.
That's
so
right.
tell our listeners about the 3 levels.
Okay. There's 3 levels of listening. Level 1 is what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
It's that inner dialogue. That's level 1. Level 2 is that conversation bubble. It's you listening to someone that's across from you, and it's the two of you, and you're listening to them.
Kind of how we think about listening in general. Yeah.
And then level 3 is what's going on in the room. It's atmospheric. It's when you go into a room and 2 people have just been fighting, but they stop, but there's this weird energy in the room. It's that kind of thing.
I kind of think like atmosphere.
Yep.
Or what's in the atmosphere.
What's in the atmosphere.
Yeah. So what levels of listening should we be primarily in this resonant conversation?
Level 2.
And level 3.
And level 3.
Yeah. So we don't want to be in our head because that's where we're trying to come up with the next best question. And I think when you just are flowing with someone, you'll know what to ask next.
Well, and there's also a way that it helps self-manage too, is that we're humans. If you do veer off and you start to wander, you can remember these and go, wait a minute, I'm going to level 1. I need to be back in 2.
Yes.
It's a good way to keep you in check.
Yes. And the other thing that we talk a lot about, especially in our in-person seminars, we have an exercise around this, is that people can tell when you go to your level 1. Yeah. They know that you've left the conversation, even if you're still nodding and looking at them. But if you're in your head, they get it. They're like, hello, you're not listening to me anymore. So again, to have a resonant conversation, you want to ask your what question, and we've given it to you. What is something you value? That doesn't come with a price tag. They're going to give you a one-word answer in jury selection particularly. So the next step is to dig in. What do you value about your daughter? Or what do you value about, your health? And then as they start talking, you're going to track them and say more about that. Oh, that sounds interesting. Well, what happened there? Right? And we're going to continue to keep them in resonance by tracking them. And while you're doing this, which I guess is the second half of it, is you're listening at level 2 and 3. You're intensely there with them and also kind of picking up what's not being said and what needs to be asked. Now, again, the reason why we do this is because this connects our jurors to our damages argument, because our damages argument is always about humans and the human condition, right? It's always about families or losing your ability to do what you love or losing the ability to do a job that you loved and make money for your family, losing the ability to be there if it's a death case. And so when we have these resonant conversations, it connects them to the damages argument and it invests them in that. And as you were saying, when we were talking about this too, it also impacts their decision making, right? Because the minute that we bring in that emotional component, that also helps. As we've said, one of the biggest things with plaintiff attorneys is we need to compel people to act. And so it helps motivate them to do something.
Yeah. Well, and we're motivated all the time by emotion out of fear or, urgency. So it's a come from. So if you can help them get in an emotional space with what you're talking about, then that come from, it just makes it, it's like an easy button.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because now they've connected with something that resonates for them. And so they're more primed to connect with what resonates with our plaintiff, which is almost all the time very similar to the stories they've just told us.
Yeah.
But you have to dig in. Now, if you're an attorney and you're listening to this and you're like, but all the things we said early, that's creepy. That's not a good use of voir dire time. What if I get objected to? Listen, people love talking about themselves, as Kevin said, right? We've seen so many mock jurors come through here who... Some of even our outliers who talk so much or don't listen to people around them, we've had to use management with them. What we recognize is that nobody listens to them. And this is one time where we have this intense attorney listening to them. And that's one reason. So people love talking about themselves. And people also love talking about things that are meaningful. And so we've never seen this, unless it's a weird question, where people are like, why are you asking me these questions? They go there. And especially with our objections, I've never seen an objection to a resonant conversation. I just haven't. I mean, we're there to talk to jurors about their life experiences. If anything in the H2H method, I would think this is the least objectionable thing. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's so weird that you would be objected to facilitating a good conversation. Like, it just blows my mind, but okay.
Yeah. So here's the last thing I'll end on in terms of, we've told you why you should have these conversations, and we've told you how to have these conversations. The last thing I will leave you with is these conversations are really awesome. They're fun to have. They're some of the best part of jury selection. They connect not only the jurors to each other because they've heard their personal stories, but they connect the jury to you because you've been listening to them talk about real, meaningful things. Don't skip this.
Yeah.
So many people skip this, and they're just trying to go after those cause challenges. And we just think it's a waste of time. You still have time for that in the H2H method, by the way. But this is where it really becomes real and what this case is really about. And it makes it about human values. And that's why these are so important. And that it's going to absolutely increase your damages.
Yeah. Well, and a point to already knowing how to do this is that a lot of you do this with your clients. So if you know how to do this with your clients, there's this disconnect that happens because you're trying to, kick them off or whatever you're doing with the exclusionary, but you have it in you. You know how to do this.
Absolutely.
It's just a matter of bringing it in with the jurors.
Or you don't. And here you can also use this with your clients.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where you can practice resonant conversations because you're going to get great stuff with your clients. All right. Well, that's it for us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll talk to you next week. If you enjoyed that conversation, you can download How to Have a Resonant Conversation at sariswears.com/resonance. RESONANCE. Thank you for listening to the very end of this episode, A+. I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the podcast, whether you're one of the weirdos that like to watch it on YouTube or you just listen. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps the podcast grow and let other people find me, y'all. But don't stop there. Be sure to leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We want this podcast to reach as many ears and eyes as possible. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.